Norval Morrisseau was one of Canada's most well-renowned Indigenous artists of the past century, with an extremely influential legacy. This is reflected in the fact that he was often referred to as the Western Picasso and the grandfather of contemporary Indigenous art. During his career, he invented the woodland style of art, which continues to be extremely popular and celebrated. Morrisseau's art simultaneously communicates traditional Anishinaabe knowledge while also conveying significant aspects of the colonial oppression that he experienced throughout his life. Morrisseau grew up on Sandpoint Reserves and was raised with both Anishinaabe and Christian spiritual influences from his grandparents. Throughout his life, he found ways of combining the two into a hybrid spirituality. He was taken to a residential school in his youth, like many other Indigenous children. Beginning with his time in residential schools, Morrisseau faced colonial efforts to destroy his Indigenous culture, and his art reflects his long-running attempt to fight against this cultural erasure. Morrisseau's style of art reflects traditional Anishinaabe knowledge, and his paintings celebrate the Anishinaabe worldview and attempt to bring it back into the mainstream Canadian consciousness. Hello, my name is Marley. I am a first-year student at McMaster University. I acknowledge that I am a settler on this land, and I am currently residing in Hamilton, on the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee and Anishinaabe in Treaty 3 territory. However, my home is situated on Treaty 6 territory in London, Ontario. In this video, I hope I am able to convey the significant symbolism and beauty of woodland-style art by going step by step through my own attempt at a woodland-style piece of art. Before starting my art, I took time to think thoroughly about what I wanted to convey, because in his paintings, Morrisseau often centered themes that communicated his own personal experience while also drawing on themes of land through the traditional Anishinaabe worldview. I wanted to emulate these themes while still remaining true to myself and my own positionality. I decided that I wanted to convey how I see myself as a white settler in relation to the land, water, animals, and plants here in North America. As I created the art, I found new ways to express this theme and make it more meaningful. But I started with the simple concept of creating an ecosystem on top of the shell of a turtle, which is a reference to Turtle Island, which appears in multiple Indigenous creation stories as North America. In this way, I am communicating themes of land, my own personal experience, and traditional Indigenous knowledge. Morrisseau consistently utilized what is referred to as X-rays within his art to symbolically show the inner structures of people and animals. They are often meant to reveal the inner spiritual and moral life of the subjects, and sometimes they are simply decorative. In this case, I wanted to demonstrate how humans are within the land and therefore dependent on it. On each of the pieces of the turtle shell, the X-ray depicts different parts of the North American ecosystem. I depicted sweet grasses, insects, bison, beavers, flowers, berries, humans, and the Great Lakes. I intentionally decentered humans to combat the humanistic idea that we are more important than other living things. In woodland-style art, thicker black lines are primarily used as ways of communicating the relationships and interconnectedness between things. The interconnectedness of all living things with one another and the land is the primary theme I am trying to convey in my painting, so I am drawing lines between everything. The lines with the pieces of the turtle's shell resemble umbilical cords, which further cements the point of dependence on the land. I am also drawing lines connecting all the plants and animals to one another and to the sun and water. Another way of conveying meaning through lines in woodland-style art is through thinner lines that radiate from the subject. For this reason, I drew lines of power radiating from the head of the turtle, from the sun, and from the water, because they are the essential elements that create the conditions for life. In Morrisseau's art, color plays an integral part in constructing meaning and invoking feelings. Throughout his career, his art evolved to utilize colors and their spiritual significance. In his early work, he used primarily earth tones to relate to traditional tanned hides and birch bark. As his career progressed, he began to use colors more intentionally to demonstrate divides and contrasts. Later in his career, he said, quote, "We can learn how to heal people with color. My art reminds a lot of people of what they are. Many times people tell me that I've cured them of something. Whatever's ailing them, it was the color of the painting that did that." End quote. He was raised in part by his grandfather, who was a traditional Anishinaabe shaman in the Midowin spiritual tradition. The influence of his grandfather is apparent in his work, as it is clear that colors hold a spiritual significance to Morrisseau, and he sees himself as a shaman, which is a spiritual healer in Anishinaabe culture, and he conducts his healing through his paintings. I am not a shaman or a healer, and I will not attempt to convey spiritual significance with the colors in my art. But I do want the colors to be intentional and meaningful. How I see myself and North American settlers at large are as destructive forces, leeching on the land and natural resources, taking disproportionately from the natural world without giving back. I see our capitalist society polluting the land and killing the plants and animals. To illustrate this point, I wanted to create a contrast between bright colors, which will symbolize the vibrancy and vitality of nature, and gray to represent death and imbalance as stemming from white colonial capitalist society, and spreading through the lines of connection to all of North America. Coloring the part of the painting not yet polluted by the gray, I wanted bright colors, and I chose colors intuitively, while also reflecting on what their meaning could be interpreted as in Anishinaabe culture. For example, I used the color yellow for the head of the turtle, which represents intelligence and mental clarity, to symbolize the idea of the land as the ultimate teacher and holder of knowledge. For the body of the turtle, I used orange and brown primarily, which each respectively symbolize resilience, protection, and tenacity. I did this to convey the feeling of stability and balance that we get from the land. The brightness of the other colors represents hope and reverence for the natural world and its revitalization. Through his art, Morrisseau made great contributions to the reconciliation and unlearning process of Canada. His paintings help the viewer to see the land not as a commodity, but as our source of life and our kin. In 1883, Morrisseau created and gifted a painting called Androgyny to the Canadian government, which he described as a lesson to help Canada with reconciliation and unlearning. It is a hopeful painting that shows all people and animals living in harmony with each other and the land. Much of his art tackles similar themes of land from an Indigenous perspective, with messages of hope, harmony, and resilience. I was inspired by that painting and its imagery, and I wanted to tackle similar themes while telling a story of environmental degradation because of capitalism. I wanted to dispute the objectification of the land that is prevalent in capitalism through using Indigenous symbolism with the turtle and the lines of connectivity between all parts of the ecosystem. To communicate how humans are polluting the land, I used gray spreading from the human like a sort of cancer. The point of the art is that we need to re-examine our lifestyle and society because we are the root of the issue. The overconsumption and unbalanced relationship between humans and the environment is further emphasized by the X-ray stomach area of the human being filled with bright colors from the natural world. In conclusion, Morrisseau is a legendary artist who created a style of art that is both beautiful and incredibly effective at telling stories. Woodland-style art reflects traditional Anishinaabe knowledge, and paintings in this style often celebrate the Anishinaabe worldview. Throughout his career, Morrisseau created so much meaningful art that reflected his long-running attempt to fight against this cultural erasure that he's faced, and challenged the mainstream Canadian society into thinking about a variety of significant issues relating to land, spirituality, and Indigenous peoples. I hope that I am able to capture the aesthetic, storytelling properties, and parts of Indigenous worldview with great reverence, and while remaining true to my own positionality as a white settler on this land. Throughout the process of creating this art, I realized just how incredible this style of art is and how effective it is at telling stories. It helped me understand my own place within this beautiful land that we call home.